Hi there and welcome. I'm Bruce. This is Speed and Color. On today's episode, we're going to sit down with a gentleman in Ontario, my first remote recording. We're going to talk about an event he has planned for this summer, late in July, I believe. More details here as we talk with him. Lee Sipes is putting this event together, and I think it's going to be spectacular. I'm really looking forward to it. Karen and I will be making the trip down there. I'll also let you know that at the end of this video, I'm going to give you an update on what's going on, or at least what I know is going on at Revolution Magazine. I give you my opinion and a bit of an update. So if you're interested, stick around to the end of the video. All right, let's join Lee in conversation and find out what the heck is going on in Durham, Ontario this summer. All right, welcome to another Speed and Color podcast and YouTube video. Today's episode is kind of cool. Earlier in 2023, I was down in Ontario, southwestern Ontario. I was down in Stratford visiting family, and I happened to find out about this event going on at Shakespeare Brewing. It was for Dice Magazine. They had some stuff going on. There was going to be some bikes on display, a bit of a show. So Karen and I headed over to the town of Shakespeare, where Shakespeare Brewing is, and found a bunch of super cool bobbers and choppers, and just I got to tell you, I was really impressed with the machines and the whole vibe of the place. And we bought a beer and walked around and met people and stuff. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to tag up with my guest at the show, but I did tag up with him afterwards, and we've kind of been corresponding and helping each other out, and we'll tell you all about why we're doing that in a second. But I want to welcome Lee Sipes from the Bad Livin Roadshow, and you are based out of where, Lee?
I'm based out of Waterloo, Ontario.
Okay, you're out of Waterloo.
I'm out of Waterloo, Kitchener, Waterloo.
And Bad Livin's going to be in Durham, and we were in Shakespeare, and our good friend over at Perth County Moto, Jeff and Lynn's, they're over in Stratford, so that gives you a bit of the lay of the land down there. But anyway,
Southern Ontario kind of is where we're all situated there.
Yeah, southwestern Ontario. Yeah.
Yep.
So welcome, Lee. We're going to have a conversation, talk about your event, talk about you, talk about what's going on. And let's kick it off and get started. So if you're ready,
let's go.
I'm going to throw the first question at you.
Sure thing.
Give us some foundational information about Lee. You just told us where you live, but what do you do for a living? Where are you married, single? Those kinds of things.
Sure thing. Yeah. My name's Lee. I grew up I was born out in Edmonton, Alberta, and I've lived in Southern Ontario most of my life. I grew up in a town called Drayton, which is a small town, and now I live in Kitchener, Waterloo. I'm married. I been around bikes my whole life. Going back to my great grandfather, he was involved. He had a bunch of bikes, rode bikes during World War II. Came back, had bikes. He was the original, the OG in the family for sure. My grandfather, same thing. My grandfather was an Indian guy. He had a lot of Indians, and my dad is a Harley guy as well. Okay. And now me. For a living, I mean, I do a lot of this stuff on the side. I have a full-time gig on top of this, all the show stuff that I do and the bikes and all that stuff. I work in the aerospace industry, have for over a decade now. Currently I work at a place where we supply a number of components for military jets and things of that nature. So
Okay.
that's
Cool.
what I do for a living full time. Yeah.
Nice.
I work on a machine there, so I'm blue collar guy.
Is that right in Waterloo or right in that area?
It's in Kitchener. Yeah.
It's in Kitchener. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Great. Right on. Yeah, you touched on it there a second ago. I read some stuff that you have a fairly rich motorcycling history in your family. There's a lot of heritage there. Maybe you could tell us a bit more about that and what got you into motorcycles and where are you at now. I know you've owned several motorcycles, and I think you own a few of them there now.
Yeah, I got my wife might say too many.
They always say that. Yeah.
they always say that. Any more than 0, I think, is too many. Yeah, I mean, growing up, I some of my earliest memories. I mean, my dad had bikes when I was born. Now he had Japanese bikes, smaller Hondas and Suzukis and things like that. But I always remember going to my grandma's house. My grandfather. They lived in Kitchener while I was growing up, and I go over to their house all the time, and there was always 3 or 4 bikes in the garage. Again, usually at that stage of his life, it was also mostly Japanese bikes. He had a 1981 Honda Goldwing that it belongs to me now. It's in storage, but I've had that bike for a number of years now. I don't really ride it or anything. It just kind of sits there with his gloves and his stuff in it, and it just sits there kind of as a bit of a time capsule for me.
Kind of a legacy piece.
Yeah, and that was the bike that when I turned 16, my dad took me to get my motorcycle license on my birthday, and that was the bike that I was riding first. When I kind of got going. I think back about sitting at my grandparents' house and there's a picture of my great grandfather that was always on the wall, going down into the basement of my grandma's house growing up, and it was him at Daytona Bike Week talking to this biker, and it was kind of a picture from an overhead view of him talking to this guy on this crazy custom bike, and because my grandfather was a bit of a wild man himself, and he rode a lot of Harleys and stuff like that back in the day, back in the 30s into the 40s and 50s, and then raced stock cars later in life, and he was quite the he was the family wild man, so I kind of think I got a little bit from him.
Right on. Good. And how many bikes have you got right now?
Right now I have 7 or 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. I got a couple of Hondas. I have a little CB that I bought my wife that I'm just kind of getting it cleaned up a little bit. I have the Goldwing that's in storage. I have my 64 Pan. I have my 01 Softail. I have a 91 FXR T that I'm putting together right now. And then I have another, call it a chopper. It's kind of a mix of a bunch of different stuff, but it's got an old pan shovel, an STD case pan shovel with a spooth transmission and a panhead frame.
Okay.
That's kind of a local history club bike that I got through a longtime friend of mine that went through his family for the past couple of decades, and then it came to me. So that's kind of the maybe the next one after the FXR that I'm gonna do. See what happens with that. I'm not sure yet.
Now, the 64 Pan, is that the hippie freak purple one that I saw?
That's the purple, the hippie freak. Yeah.
That's a beautiful bike, man.
Nice. That bike, that was kind of my first vintage bike that I had owned. I bought that bike. How many years ago? Probably 9 years ago now. I want to say probably not almost 10, but probably 9 years ago, I think. Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny how that came about. It was kind of a wild story. Like I had started to hang around a couple of guys that were into older bikes, and it was something that was really interesting to me. I had already started, working with Freedom Machine. Kind of, I don't even know if it had just started or it hadn't quite started yet. And we were just kind of talking, going around and doing some ideas. And at the time I had run kind of a community Facebook page that was kind of involving the vintage bikes and the custom bikes. and it had a decent following. So they had approached me about doing some advertising and maybe working with them and getting some of my followers, to get interested in the show in those early days. And that's how I got going with Freedom Machine. But I was hanging around my buddy Andy's place, actually, and he had a panhead sitting on a shelf. And it actually didn't even have, I think it had knuckle heads at the time, but it was a panhead bottom end. And it was aftermarket, but it was just kind of sitting there. I was looking at it, I'm like, man, that's really cool. And he was building this crazy Norton at the time that was super, super nice. I think it was just in recently. I think it was just in Dice Magazine recently. But he races with like the lowbrow race team and all that. So Andy's a solid dude. Yeah. And, we were sitting there and I was looking at this motor and I was like, man, I would love to get something. And I was in school at the time. I had been working for a while, but I went back to school I went back to school for business marketing, and I was trying to do something different because I kind of had been working. I ended up going to basically back to the exact same job after I graduated, but at least I went there with a college degree. Right. But it was just kind of at a time where I felt like I wanted to do that, and so I was in school, and I was looking at. I was looking at this motor. I'm like, I would really like to maybe do something like that, but it was kind of a pipe dream. And I think it was maybe the next week. I was just kind of looking around on the internet, and I was on Auto Trader, and there was this ad for a 1964 panhead. I don't even remember if the year was on it. I might have just said panhead, and it was a really sketchy looking ad. The pictures were terrible. There was only like pictures of half the bike, and there was only 2 pictures, and they were grainy. And it was just kind of a weird thing, but it was in Mississauga, which was, about half an hour away from me. So it was pretty close. So it was a Wednesday night, and I called him up, and it was a woman that answered the phone, an older woman. She's like, I'm like, yeah, is this bike, is it real? She goes, yeah, I'm selling it. It was my husband's. He passed away, some time ago, and it's been sitting for a long time, and we're moving back to England, and we're clearing everything out. I'm like, okay, well, I'd like to come and see it. And she's like, okay. So I went down on a Wednesday night, and it was lying there in the garage. It was under it was like there was a huge old aquarium sitting on top of it, and a dead Christmas tree and all this garbage. And we kind of cleared it away, and there it was. And it was like this, it was like kind of one of those barn find situations. It was just kind of this discarded bike, and it was there, and it was complete, and it was rolling, and it was pretty tired, and it was all done up in that kind of classic 80s style, all blacked out with the, 3.5 gallon tanks and, 16 front and rear wheels. It was, that kind of, that cat squasher front end looking type bike. And I was like, oh, it's great. And I kind of threw out being a student at the time, I had, next to no money. And I threw out a number that was, if I was in their position, would have been horribly offensive, and they accepted immediately. Wow. So I couldn't believe it. so I had to, because I was kind of talking out my ass. So I had to figure out a way to come up with that money. So that my first panhead was bought with student loans and credit card. That's pretty much, that's pretty much how it went with that. But yeah, and then in that weekend, I went with my buddy Andy there in his van, and we picked it up and brought it home, and that kicked. I already had a few different bikes. I had my Softail already, and I had a Road King before that, and a couple other bikes, but they were always newer. So this was kind of my first, old bike, and it took me about 4 years to get it to where you saw it, right? And I've had it on the road for about 4 or 5 now. So
okay. Super cool bike. Very nice. Yeah. Really, really good.
Yeah. That bike was a lot of fun to put together. It took, it was, my original, my plan always is, I always start off very simple, and I'm not going to do a lot. And then it kind of snowballs, and I end up doing way too much. Right. But that bike, I would say it probably opened a couple of doors for me. It was something that I really enjoyed building. I got to get my hands dirty on a lot of stuff. And, one of my very close friends now, Jason Parker, built the motor, and he's one of the best in North America, in my opinion, doing that stuff. So that's, for me, I'm really happy to have something that he's worked on that bike, and everything else. I painted it with my good buddy Matt in his dad's basement in their fruit cellar. It's just kind of like one of those things, and Matt's dad has passed away now, but he was really excited. He rode bands back in the day, and he was really excited to have something like that in and around his house. And Matt really, he really hooked me up with that stuff. We kind of, he did a lot on that bike, and I was able to get my hands dirty on it too. And yeah, it was a blast. Yeah, it really brought a lot of people together, that bike. And then when I got it finished, it was really great, because then Revolution put it on their cover, and it was a whole big deal. And that bike, it opened a lot of doors. So that was pretty great.
Right. Good. Yeah, very nice. I really liked it. Looking forward to seeing it again.
Yeah.
So moving towards the show, I understand that you have some event planning experience, motorcycle shows. You've done some stuff in the past. Maybe just give us an idea of what you've done and how it's equipped you to take on the challenge that you've taken on now.
Well, I've worked kind of off and on in the bike industry for a lot of years. I spent a short time working for Harley Davidson, but I've worked at a number of different custom shops dating back to high school. I got my first bike shop job as a co-op in grade 12, and I worked for a company called Richard's Custom Cycle, or RCC Turbos, and it was mostly it was a high performance shop. Did a lot of drag bikes, mostly Hayabusas or Suzuki based stuff. So Hayabusas or Gixxer 1000s, but he had, there was still Harleys that came to the shop, and that's where I kind of got my feet wet into that stuff. Mm-hmm. And then over the years, through that kind of morphed into me being involved in doing some show stuff or doing at least booths at shows. I started doing some swap meet booths with another guy that I worked for some time. And then through that, transitioning into getting involved with Freedom Machine, which is, that's kind of been something I've done for the last, I think there was 8 years, 9 years, something like that.
And Freedom Machine is what?
So the Freedom Machine Vintage and Custom Motorcycle Show was the show that existed at the venue that I am taking over now.
Oh, okay.
So it went for a number of years, and is it's definitely one of the things that inspired me to keep going with this stuff. It went up until last year, and then there was a few partners, and they kind of decided to that was kind of where they wanted to cap it off. One guy had moved away, the other guy was kind of looking to spend some more time with his family and stuff, and I kind of I worked with them on that show for so many years, and I was kind of left thinking, I would like to maybe do something and take up that mantle and maybe see if I can, create something, new and fresh, but also pay homage to kind of where it had been going,
Right.
So that was the big push in the overall those years working with that show. I developed a lot of contacts and a lot of connections and networked for many years. So when I wanted to do something, it wasn't a totally foreign concept to me. I was able to go out and reach out to people and start getting the ball rolling pretty quick.
Right. Good. Hey, you just mentioned something too that I was going to talk to you about is, I've just stuck my toe in, so to speak, in the waters down there. But there are so many connections. You guys all seem connected. I found the Sketchy Chopper Society podcast.
Yep.
Now it looks like they haven't done anything since 2022. But listening to a couple of those podcasts.
Yeah, I've been on that podcast before. Those guys have been out to my house
your
before.
Your name came up. They referenced a bunch of other guys that I've heard on other podcasts. And, it just seems like the whole community down there, Perth County Moto being a part of that, Revolution Magazine, which we can talk about in a minute. We're not sure where that's at right now. But all that stuff, you guys seem to have a great community and a lot of good connection. Yep.
Yeah, a lot of that I would say, that's developed through a number of the different shows that we had out here. Freedom Machine being one of them. There were some other great ones like Clutch Society in Toronto that Dan Lim did through the big bike show that happened in downtown Toronto. Okay. there's things like Roll the Bones in Montreal. Fantastic show, and a lot of people go there. I've been there. I've showcased the year that I finished my Panhead. That was the first place I showcased it. Through Revolution magazine. There's lots of us have gone through that magazine, and I read that magazine for many years before ever getting involved with them, and then having my bike there, and I ended up working for them for some time and was writing for them for a little while as well. Right. It's just that the world is pretty small. The bike industry. There's a lot of people, but there's not really a ton of people that are doing things all the time. Right. So once you kind of get into the inner circles, it's a lot of the same people over and over again. And when you make those connections, you kind of see how how things are made, you can kind of traverse that thing pretty easily. Right.
Cool. So all of this leads me to your new show, and I'll let you give the title of it and everything. Tell us what you're doing there and what you got going.
Sure. The new show is called the Bad Livin Roadshow. The name kind of stemmed from, it's actually funny. It actually stems back to high school for me. So when I was brainstorming different names, I wanted something that was kind of unique to me, but I didn't really know what direction I wanted to go. I know what I wanted out of the show, but naming things is difficult. And I was thinking about this experience I had in high school with my guidance counselor, actually, because in high school I always wanted to be a motorcycle mechanic. That was like, ever since I was a kid, that was it. And that never happened for me, but that's what, at that time, that's what I wanted for myself. And I remember sitting there in the guidance counselor's office, and there was a thing, they would bring us all in and ask us what we wanted to do for a living. And then once we gave them kind of a general idea, they'd get us some information and then, kind of send us on our way. It was pretty whatever. But I said that I wanted to be a motorcycle mechanic, and she did her little search thing on her computer and brought it up, and it brought up the average salary and a few other things. And she looked at it and goes, "Motorcycle mechanic, look at that. That's a bad living." Because it said the average salary was like $13 an hour or something like that. She goes, "You gotta pick something else."
Right on.
And it's funny because that stuck with me for so many years. And when I was thinking about it, I remembered that, and I was like, you know what? It's kind of fitting for the show.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
Good.
So yeah, I kind of came up with that concept, and then I started pitching the idea to a few of my friends, both kind of guys doing builds, some of the businesses I worked in the past, and found that there was a lot of support, and that there was definitely a need for something. They seemed pretty excited about me wanting to kind of take the mantle. So it motivated me to actually start doing something and pushing something.
Cool.
And now that the ball is starting to roll a little bit more, we're starting to get some more sponsors on board. There's some great sponsors on board now. Royal Distributing is coming in a big way. Lowbrow Custom stepped up. We have, a ton of people, and we're doing the giveaway bike now. So we're doing a 67 Triumph. That's going to be a ground up custom build that we're going to give away. Black Horse Cycle, one of my best friends, Adam, he's doing the motor, and he's going to help a lot with the build. Back Corner Studios, they want to paint the bike. JP Powder Coating is going to come in and do some stuff. Again, Royal is going to step up and do some of the parts on that. Like it's really great. They're really, they're really standing behind it, which is exciting. And it definitely motivates me to make sure that this is something substantial and serious. It's not just a fly-by-night thing. Yeah.
Right. Now, you said a 67 Triumph. I thought I had saw some posts about a different bike you were building. Was that for the show, or?
I got a few different things on the go, but the 67 is for the show.
Okay.
That's the one that's for the show. So I'm doing some other stuff for myself. I got the FXR for myself and another chopper for myself, and it all kind of gets blended together. But the Triumph is for the show.
Okay, and I'm curious. You're giving the Triumph away.
Yep.
How's that funded? What are you doing there? How do you make that work out?
I mean, out of my own pocket, a lot of it, and then the sponsors. So we figure it out. We build a bike, and And when people, so the way that it has always worked, and it was a similar method at Freedom Machine. And essentially we build the bike, and attendees of the show, you pay for your admission to the show for your weekend pass. I have a different levels of pass this year. Freedom Machine was always only a 1-day event, would go from 12 noon, and then you'd have your camping, and then you get kicked out on Sunday, where I'm running it from Friday afternoon all the way till Sunday at noon.
Oh, okay.
So the Friday kicks off at 4:00 in the afternoon. You can buy a weekend pass that includes all that stuff, and that includes you for all of the Friday night stuff, our pre-party. I got a bunch of bands coming. I got some really cool features for that night. It's just going to be a great hangout and a great party leading up to the show. And then Saturday's the big show and all the displays and all the vendors and everything that'll be there.
Right.
And then at the end of Saturday, we just give a bike away to someone. We just call everybody up, and we pick someone out of a hat, and there you go.
Nice.
Have a free bike. Adios.
That's cool.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yep.
Good stuff. So what do we got for activities? We got 3 days: Friday, Saturday, Sunday. What kind of activities you got planned?
I don't want to let too much out right now, because I got some stuff in the works, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. Okay. And there's gonna be enough going on. I think it's gonna have people's attention, and I think that the show is gonna grow as the years go on as well. And I'm gonna make sure that it grows with better features as the years go on. But what's really important to me, I used to be involved in bands and stuff like that back when I was a lot younger. I used to tour in a band and played music for when I was in my early 20s. So music is a big part of my life, and I'm getting out a lot of great bands. I have a record label called Pink Lemonade Records that are going to be supplying all the music for the show. Great group of guys, have a lot of great connections in the music industry. So we're going to have some fun stuff going on that way. Not kind of the classic cover bands, it's going to be some pretty lively stuff. I think it's going to be good. Great.
So is there going to be a long distance award? Because that's the one I'm going for, buddy.
I got someone coming from Texas, so I think they might got you beat.
Oh, son of a gun. I might have to take the long way to Durham.
Yeah, take the long way. Ontario via Alaska.
Right on. So
yeah,
I'll
have some
Texas.
Different stuff. I'm working with some different sponsors and stuff, and we'll do some fun little things like that. I really want, what's important for me with the show is, not just awarding individuals. Like there is always going to be something like that, but I just really like to celebrate what this stuff is and celebrate the culture behind it. Celebrate, the vintage culture obviously is very important to me, and it's something that I really, really enjoy. So that's a major feature of this show. But, I also want to be able to draw in some of, what's happening now, which the custom and vintage market is such a rich market, but they're not making any more of those bikes.
Right.
So bikes get built, and things happen over the years, but it's not this ever expanding thing. It's got a limit to it. So yeah. I want to be able to draw in people that are not only interested in that, but are interested in the other aspects too. So I want to have an area for, say, performance builds, Dynas FXRs, things like that. Guys that are doing, cool custom stuff, paint, performance parts, everything, but not just in this vintage kind of, in this vintage realm. I want to bring it into some of the modern builds as well and showcase those.
Cool.
And I always felt like there was a lot of crossover. Some guys build a chopper, but they also have another bike that they ride distance or vice versa. Right. And I don't think there's really any reason to segregate those things. I think those are a great thing to bring together.
Right. Cool. You probably don't want to tip me off, but is there going to be a swap meet? Should I plan on bringing something home, or? We've
tried to do swap meets in the past, and it's tricky. It's tricky just because of how our vendors are set up, and then to have swap meet booths on top of that, it's challenging. I always felt like swap meets should be standalone events. To try to throw one on top of things can get a little bit complicated.
Okay.
So I'm not going to be doing a swap meet this year, but I am going to have some great vendors that come out. And there, some of those vendors may have some parts for sale, but it's not necessarily going to be a swap meet.
Okay. And you'll tip me off to any good deals locally that I can go and see while I'm there. Okay. Sounds good.
As long as I've had a look at them first, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
It can't be too good a deal.
Lee's rejects for Bruce. Yeah. Right on. While we're on this topic, why don't you tell us where people can get information, finding out where to stay, all that kind of stuff. What do you got going social media wise, website, all that stuff? Oh, we're having a little bit of a system glitch here. Connection is unstable. Son of a gun. Oh, there he is. He's back.
There we go.
Yeah, we had a little connection issue there. It kind of figured over the internet that might happen. So again, back to where can people get information? How can they stay up to date with you? What do you got going on?
So right now, the best places to kind of stay up to date are either Facebook or Instagram. I have a website in the process right now, but it's not complete yet. So that's the next big project. It's a big undertaking to build a website. So I have some of the groundwork laid, but I still have to populate some stuff and I need some help with that. So I'm bringing in some guys to help me, build that. But right now the Instagram is a great place. The Facebook page, Bad Livin Roadshow on Facebook, or at bad_livin_roadshow on Instagram. That has any updates that I'm doing, anything that I'm doing with, any promotional stuff I'm doing, any updates with the builds or with the show, I usually post a reel or do something on there.
Okay. Yep. What about places to stay and stuff? How would somebody find out about Durham and the area? And
so as far as the show goes, I mean the property it's a 100-acre property, so there's camping and everything on the property.
Okay.
There is this so. You haven't some people that have been there before kind of understand the layout, but you haven't been there, so I'll kind of explain it to you. As you come into the property, there's kind of a main area which is the what's called the Frontier Ghost Town, and there's some old buildings there. There's an old saloon. There's some really cool features on the property, and then you go into the back, and there's kind of a large field in the back, which I'll have bikes and vendors back there. You go into the campground, which is a kind of a beautiful kind of rolling hill there with nice treat areas and some flat spots for tents. And then there's an additional field even farther into the back that is it's not as visually nice, but it's nice and flat, and it's a great place to put an RV or a trailer. So that's kind of what the plan is right now, is to throw the big stuff in the back, tent, van, or small trailer camping in the main campground, and then the show goes on in the main part.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Just give us a quick idea, traveling distance. So let's say somebody wanted to stay in Stratford and ride out to the event, or maybe stay in, Kitchener, Waterloo area, something like that. What kind of travel times are we looking at?
From Kitchener, Waterloo, I'd say it's probably about an hour and a half. I want to say it's about 2 hours, a little over 2 hours from Toronto is kind of how we range it.
Okay.
Stratford, I'm not sure. Stratford, I can't remember which way you go from Stratford. But there is some smaller towns in and around there. If you wanted a motel it or something like that, there's some stuff. There's some stuff over in Hanover, which is pretty close, and some of the other towns up there. It's you're getting kind of into cottage country, so there's some nice little quaint motels and stuff rolling around there. And the ride is really nice as well. You start getting up onto the Bruce Peninsula there. There's some really nice riding up there.
Oh, cool. And the roads are pretty good?
Yeah, the roads are very good. The roads are very good up there, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good. Well, anything else that you wanted to tell us about with the show?
I don't know. Not really. That's kind of the show in a nutshell. I mean, it's unfolding as kind of time goes on.
Yeah.
I'm doing a big booth.
I know what you haven't told us. What's the date?
Oh, July 19th to the 21st.
19th to the 21st. Okay.
Yeah, July 19th to the 21st, 2024. So it's Friday, load in for vendors and everything will be on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then kick out on Sunday.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
Good. All right. Well, what we'll do then is we have a thing. I don't know if you've listened to the podcast yet or anything. We've only got three.
I've seen some clips.
Okay. We've only got 3 episodes out there so far. It's coming along. This one will probably be, I'm going to guess, 5 weeks out from being aired, but it'll go on YouTube and the podcast platforms. But something we do on the podcast, we've done right from episode 1 that we like to have some fun with, is the rapid fire round.
Okay.
So I have some questions here for you. Most of them are, yes, no, 1-word answers, pretty simple stuff. But it'll give us some insight into Lee and might stimulate some conversation. You never know, or it may shut the conversation right down. You never know. So I'll start. I'll fire some questions at you.
Sure.
And we'll go from there. Steak or lobster?
Both.
Of course. But if you had to pick, Lee.
Steak, for sure.
Steak. Okay. Text or talk?
Text.
Text. Okay.
Yeah.
Front fender, yes or no?
Nah.
Yeah. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Something with peanut butter in it.
Something with peanut butter. Good stuff. Podcast or YouTube?
Probably YouTube, I would say.
Okay. You like the video format?
Yeah, I do.
Hand clutch or foot clutch?
I got both. I don't know. It depends. It depends on how I'm feeling that day. I like a hand clutch for anywhere I got to go with traffic, and I like a foot clutch for rolling around on my own.
Okay, fair. Wide or skinny?
What are we talking here?
That's up to you.
Depends on how many margaritas, I guess.
That's great. Morning or evening?
Evening.
Do you play a musical instrument?
I used to play a bit of guitar. I'm beyond rusty now. I'm in decay. But I do enjoy guitar. I own guitars, and they sit in a room usually adjacent to me.
It surprises me how many people collect guitars.
Yeah.
It's a very collectible thing. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Education or experience?
Ooh, experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Describe your style in 2 words.
Ooh. Dirty fancy.
Dirty fancy, right on. And finally, board games or video games?
Video games.
Video games?
Yeah.
Which ones?
Not much anymore, but if I'll still rock the PlayStation every once in a while when I get the time.
Very good. I'm in the same boat. I love it when I get time, but man, it's hard to find time.
It's hard to find time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just I go back to some, I'll play a whole bunch of different stuff, but it's hard to find the time to get into it.
Right. Cool. Lee, I want to thank you. This is our first remote like this.
Yep.
It's been a bit of a challenge, but I'm really glad you jumped in and did this with us. We're going to keep an eye on the Bad Livin Roadshow. My plan here, Karen and I are working on a trailer. We'll come up with something. I've got a couple different ideas. We're going to bring the Sportster down. Our plan for next summer, if it's okay to talk about some other shows, we're planning to haul down to Bad Livin, come home, go back again in September for Friday the 13th, which I happen to think is a great show. I love Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I haven't been to that in many years, but when I was younger, I went to that.
Yeah, it's boy, it's a lot of fun. We shipped the Sportster down there years ago,
Yeah,
6 or 7 years ago for the show, and had a great time. And we danced on the beach. The Practically Hip played. They're there pretty well.
yep,
We've been there 3 times. They've been there every time we've been there.
yep,
So I like that show. And
yep.
the other show I want to hit, because it should be that same weekend, I think, is the anniversary party at Perth County Moto.
Yeah.
I really want to check that out. That sounds like a great event. So we're gonna
They'll be all
plan
settled
on,
into their new location by then, so it'll be quite the thing.
Yes. So Karen and I are planning on experiencing a whole bunch of that Southwestern Ontario motorcycle chopper bobber kind of situation. And
Yep.
yeah, I think it's going to be great. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. So we'll be back and forth across the country with a trailer. I wish I could ride back and forth each time, but
I know. Sometimes it's just not feasible with time.
Yeah, just too much. So that's what we've got planned. We'll be seeing you a bunch in the summer. We're going to talk to you again before that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We'll stay up to date on Instagram and everything, and
Yep.
we'll work with you as we get closer to showtime here.
Yep, sounds great.
Any last thoughts? Anything you want to share with us?
Appreciate you talking to me. Appreciate you taking some time to go over the show and stuff. I'm really excited about it. I hope other people are. I'm really putting a lot of kind of who I am into it, and it's something that I really am passionate about, and it's something that I really would like to see do well, regardless of really me doing it or not. The culture, I think, it's such a rich and profound culture, and it's great here, but I think that it has the opportunity to really touch so many different lives across Canada and into the US. I think it can be something really, really great, and draw a lot of people in, and just be a place where people can come and get inspired to be involved in it. And that's really what I'm about. That's my whole thing, and why I do it.
And you nailed it. It's a great culture. It wonderful people, a lot of fun, good companies involved. Yeah, lots of good stuff. So I'll do my closing plug. Speed and Color podcast and YouTube. For those of you who are listening, watching, like, subscribe, send us your comments, give us some feedback. All of that is fair game. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Lee, for joining us. And
thanks for having me.
We will all talk again soon. Thank you. Okay, man, that's a wrap. We're done.
Right on.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, that was a great conversation with Lee. I'm really looking forward to what he's doing down in Durham, Ontario there this summer. Karen and I, as I said, we're going to make the trip down. We're going to go to Bad Livin. I want to see this, and I want to see all those super cool bikes in that southern Ontario area. Going to be lots of neat stuff there. So an update on Revolution Magazine. Revolution Magazine is a magazine that's been around for a long time. Lots of history there. Something, I guess I'm just going to shoot from the hip here, but something interesting about the Canadian magazine industry is there is government grants and government support for Canadian publications. The idea is that these publications capture our culture, our community, a snapshot in time of who we are and what's going on. And Revolution Magazine has certainly been that for the motorcycle community, specifically the custom motorcycle community, and has received that government funding, and that has helped Revolution stay in business and do it as long as it did. The previous owner was very committed to the magazine and did a great job with it. The current owner, who took over in the last year or two, I don't know for sure. Nice man, gentleman, good guy. Fell upon some unfortunate circumstances in 2023. I won't go into details about what happened to him. That's not fair. Nothing physically happened to him, but there were a couple of life-changing events around him, and it has apparently left him in a state of depression that he's having a hard time getting out of. And I totally understand, and I know that with the pandemic, we're all much more sensitive to, mental health and issues and all that kind of stuff. And it's fine. I don't want to seem like a hard ass, but we do have to carry on as well. I think when we have a responsibility to our subscribers, to our community, to the funding provided by the government for a magazine to carry on. There's people who can help out and people who are willing to help out. And I just find it really unfortunate that in this case, this man is not reaching out for help, and is just trying to shoulder the load and not doing a very good job of it because nothing's happening. And it's really unfortunate to see Revolution magazine not available at this time. What his plans are, I have no idea. All I know from people close to him is he's in a severe state of depression. He can't do anything. He can't function. He has, I guess, no interest in getting the magazine out right now. And that's where it's at. What his plans are for the future. Can he revive it? Can he bring it back? I mean, he's only missed a couple episodes. I'm sure that, the community would, for the most part, support him. I know I would try to again. And I have reached out to him by email and had no response to my messages. So I really don't know what's going on there. Locally here in Calgary, I will say that I feel sorry. I apologize to anybody who feels they've been wronged or anything by the magazine going away with no notice. It's a shame, and I know some things were done last summer, and we tried to promote and have a good time. And I know contributors who have photographs and articles lined up for the magazine that they're just sitting on because they don't know what to do with them. They can't get any response. And of course, they certainly can't be paid for their work or anything. It's just a very unfortunate situation. So that's what I know about Revolution. For now, it is not available. Like I say, the website is still up, but there's no response to messages. Don't know where it's going. I will keep you up to date. We'll keep you informed on anything that I find out. On the same topic, but a different aspect of that topic, I will say that one thing I have learned in my years is we are surrounded by good people. All of us are. There's lots of good people, and we live in a great place. The world is wonderful. Yes, there are challenges. I don't want to sound like I don't know what's going on in the world. But for the most part, life is a really good experience. And if you have struggles with something, and I'm not a psychologist or a therapist or anything like that, I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. So you take it with a grain of salt. But if you're struggling with something, if you're struggling with, loss of a friend or a family member or some other significant life change, please reach out to the people around you. Don't try and hold it all in. Don't try and harbor it all for yourself. And gee whiz, don't let your business go down the tubes because you can't get out of bed. Don't let your assets, don't let what you've worked for in life slip away because, something's happened and it's got you down. Like I say, I think all of us have people around us that we can reach out to, ask for some help, ask for some support. For myself, and I won't go into great detail, it really doesn't matter, but I lost my dad as a young man. My wife left me after 26 years, which was devastating. My son died in 2022 at just 30 years old in a tragic accident. And I understand that these things happen to us, but I also understand that I needed to lean on the people around me. I hope that you will lean on the people around you to get through whatever challenge you're facing. So that's my feel-good message. And as I say, I am not a psychologist or a therapist, but heck, I don't care if you call me up to talk about it, or send me a note. I want you to know that we all have people around us who can help us out. That's it for now. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed the update on Revolution, and we will see you again very soon. Thanks for watching.